Hey guys, Bowserkins here. We're going to do a follow-up video about the Mage Tower today, specifically the nerfs to the Mage Tower, and we're going to talk about the community reaction to the Mage Tower. We're also going to, have a quick chat about what I believe the Mage Tower challenge should be for players, um, and where the difficulty should kind of fall into in terms of its, if you're looking at Mythic rating, Gladiator level PvP, Mythic Plus, where I think it falls in there, right? Who I actually think this content is meant for. And I want to start out by saying there are some people who have been incredibly toxic about these nerfs because they feel like the Mage Tower is meant for them as opposed to being a community driven, um, part of the content that's meant to be enjoyed by everybody. I can tell you right now that uh, I don't think that Blizzard sees the Mage Tower as an elitist club. I really don't. I don't think that it's meant to be catered to the elitist club. And I think that Blizzard has somewhat of an impossible job trying to cater to people who are really good at the game while still maintaining a challenge that the average player can kind of overcome. Because, I mean, Blizzard doesn't sit in an art studio and work on, tier gear, recolors of tier gear, all that stuff, just to see only 1% of the player base obtain it. And, in the situations they do, i.e., mythic rating, um, even that has potential down the road for people to actually utilize by going back to three tiers old, or excuse me, two or three expansions of old content and eventually getting that gear through transmog runs, right? It has relevance in the long term. The Mage Tower is unique in the sense that, from what I can tell, it will always be a challenging encounter um, that scales with each expansion moving forward. And it's not something that you're going to be able to outgear. So therefore, I think it needs to be a little bit more lenient in its challenge so that players can actually, uh, you know, have access to the transmog without a massive investment, both in consumables and other things that cost a lot of gold or time, right? So let's go over some of the nerfs here. Number one, the thing that stuck out the most was just you know, there's 4 bullet points here just for the Risen Threat encounter. In addition to that, Holy Priest and Resto Shaman got some extra love down here. From what I understand, based on my conversations with Holy Priest, this is an okay change overall, leaning a little bit more towards the easier side, I guess is probably the best way to summarize it. For Resto Shaman, I had one person say it's a joke now. I don't know if that was hyperbole or not because I didn't follow up. That person tends to be a little bit um, hyperbolic in their assessments, though. So, I've seen some tweets though where people were struggling and then they clapped it really hard soon after the hot fixes. So, Resto Shaman, they might have overdone it a little bit, but that's only because people are comparing it to the pre-nerf. It could be that 2 years from now, when people who've never even done Mage Tower come back here with an equal level of skill, they'll find it adequately challenging um, to kind of fulfill that itch of doing some solo content. We won't really know for sure. Some of the more nuanced changes, though, Guardian Druid got a few of them. Health reduction to help with the DPS check at the end. Hopefully, this helps with people burning a bunch of drums and agi pots, different consumables that are making the act of fighting cruel and extremely expensive affair for Guardian Druids. The exact same is the case for Blood Decay. And speaking of those two specs, here's the actual percentage breakdown of the health. So 9.5% off the Blood Decay and 7.7% off the Guardian Druid. Um, to detail a couple of extra changes here, the Blood Decay, with the Nether Horrors, they can no longer cast or channel Netherstorm while moving. This means that once they start channeling, or once they will start casting Netherstorm to charge it up, they will not move until you move them. A situation where this is really good is if they're kind of spread out. Until that Netherstorm channel is done, they're not going to chase you with it. The downside of that being if they start channeling it on top of your priest and kill him, it's over. And the only way you're going to be able to stop that is with a mass grip. To Guardian Druid, they went halfway on that. They can no longer cast Nether Storm while moving, but they can channel it while moving. So what that's going to look like is, a Nether Storm is effectively going to start channeling by the Nether Horrors, or excuse me, it's going to start casting, and then once the cast ends and the channel begins, which lasts 6 seconds, then they'll start running after whoever they have aggro on. But that again can still result in them instantly killing the priest if they start to cast it while standing on top of him. Because generally, if you have 4 stacked on top of him, when the channel starts, if he takes that initial tick of damage, he basically is going to instantly die. And largely this is irrelevant. I think it mentions it down here in the article. But you should be taking care of all the nether storms with in-cap roar anyway. So people who are doing this fight properly are not going to have to worry about any of this all too much. I don't know how much of this changes the actual difficulty of the encounter because I haven't done it since it got hot fixed. But you should still be able to interrupt nether horrors reliably with just your in-cap roar. Prop Paladin looks like they got some health reduction here. Tormenting Eye health reduced. That's kind of interesting. I know when I was playing this on my Brewmaster, I really missed just being able to moonfire them to death. Actually having to go over and kill them in melee sometimes was annoying as heck. So I don't know what Prop Paladin's dealing with. I'm assuming it's kind of the same case. But I also don't know how much 10% is actually going to make a difference in the quality of life there. The fact that the Infernals cast Smash less often is interesting. Excuse me, I had to burp there. The fact that they're casting Smash less often is interesting. Obviously, the Paladins have less mobility, so maybe this was an issue. Again, we have to keep all this in perspective. They're just trying to bring these specs in line with the other ones. If you're a prop Paladin and you were struggling through 3 whole days, a couple hundred wipes in the Mage Tower while your enhancement shaman buddy just instantly destroyed it in like 10 pulls, that's not going to go over well, and I don't think that's a fair way of implementing this system. For players to experience this game mode in that way is unfortunate. So bringing some of these specs more in line with the other ones is definitely welcome. I do think some people will squeak in now and get that transmog set or that Fellbear in the Guardians case, or maybe even get the Soaring Spellbook totem or tome, right? The mount. I think they'll be able to get that a little bit easier now. But this is still going to be incredibly difficult for anyone who one would consider bad at the game, right? So, in closing, I don't think the Mage Tower Challenge is meant to actually be something that is only exclusive to the best players in the world, because it's a winner take all system, right? You either get the reward at the end and it's the whole reward, or you don't get anything at all, right? It's not like one thing that I think was bad about how they handled Torghast was they kind of instantly reverted what I believe was a mindset within the company to begin with, where if you were really good at the game, you could get the most amount of soul ash possible and thus get your legendary quicker. Whereas if you were a poor player and you didn't play your class very well, you would probably die in the higher floors of Torghast, and therefore you could only accrue lower amounts of soul ash every week. And that reward of being better at the game was tangible and it worked in tiers. That's unfortunately not the case in Mage Tower because there's only one challenge at one difficulty level, and you either get the rewards or you don't. And I think that it's incredibly unfair if, let's just say, 0.5% of the player base was actually capable of completing, the Frost DK challenge, right? That would be, in my opinion, a failure on Blizzard's part to provide a decent product to its players. All right. So that's my take on it, guys. Feel free to disagree in the comments and tell me I'm an idiot. I always welcome the comments. Again, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It helps me out a ton. I appreciate the views, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.